My boyfriend tracked my Flow app, monitored my ovulation, and intentionally got me pregnant just to extort money from his rich parents, and I only found out after the damage was done. He used my own period tracker against me. He knew when I was ovulating, planned everything, and got me pregnant, all to extort $40,000 from his parents. Welcome to Raw Reddit Tales. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and family and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you. Sit back and relax as we dive into the spicy story. The night I found out what Paul had done, I sat in my car outside his apartment for almost an hour, clutching my phone and shaking. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, not because I was scared, but because I couldn't believe someone I trusted that deeply had turned my entire life into a lie. He wasn't yelling or cheating or caught with another woman. What Paul did was colder. It was planned. It was patient. It was something he'd thought through for months. Looking back now, all the signs were there. His sudden interest in my cycle, the way he'd ask if I'd logged my symptoms on Flow, or how he'd randomly mention how some couples accidentally get lucky. I thought it was cute talk, you know? I thought he was being flirty. Instead, he was taking notes like a scientist. Every move he made had a purpose, and that purpose was $40,000. He'd started dropping hints about his parents' money troubles, how they never respected him, how he wanted to prove he could take care of a family. I didn't realize I was about to become the proof. The plan wasn't just to trap me, it was to play his parents too. Why would someone go this far for money? The morning I told Paul I was pregnant, he didn't look shocked. He looked satisfied, like a man whose plan had finally worked. I remember my hands shaking as I held out the test to him, my heart racing, unsure whether to laugh or cry. He stared at it for a long moment, then smiled. Not a warm smile, but one that felt practiced. "It's okay, baby," he said softly, "and we'll figure everything out." At first, I thought he was just being calm for my sake, but in hindsight, it was because he already knew. He'd been waiting for that result. He'd been timing everything down to the last detail. Within a few days, Paul became overly affectionate. He started calling me mama, kissing my stomach, and talking endlessly about our future family. It was sweet, almost too sweet. But there was something off. He didn't seem nervous about money or housing or anything. He was confident, almost excited. I didn't understand why until his mother called out of nowhere, congratulating me. She said Paul had told them the great news, and that they'd sent him $40,000 to help us get ready for the baby. My heart stopped. I hadn't even had my first prenatal appointment yet, and he'd already turned my pregnancy into a transaction. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off. "They wanted to help," he said. "It's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. It was my life, my body, my child, and he'd used it as leverage. I started noticing little things, receipts for expensive electronics, new clothes, and a brand new watch. When I asked where the money came from, he said, "Just saving smart." But I knew better. The numbers didn't add up. That night, when I checked his messages, I saw it, the conversation with his parents. "Thanks again, Mom," he'd written. "We'll use the money wisely for the baby." Except half of it was already gone. I stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen, wondering how the person I loved could turn our child into a tool for greed. Was I really carrying his baby, or just carrying his plan? The days after that discovery felt like walking through fog. Paul acted like everything was normal, cooking for me, rubbing my belly, talking about names as if we were the picture of young love. But I couldn't unsee those messages. I couldn't unhear his mother's voice, so proud, so unaware that her son had turned her grandchild into a payday. Every time Paul smiled, it looked more like a mask slipping out of place. I started paying attention to the way he avoided eye contact when I mentioned doctor appointments, to how defensive he became whenever money came up. One night, I asked him where the rest of the $40,000 went. He laughed, a low, dismissive sound. "Why are you counting money that's not even yours?" he said. The words cut deeper than I expected. Not mine. The money was supposed to help with the baby, with our baby. But he wasn't thinking about diapers or cribs. He was thinking about image, about revenge, about getting one over on the parents who'd never believed in him. He told me once, late at night, "They always said I'd never be responsible enough." Guess who's laughing now? That's when it clicked. This wasn't about love. It was about proving something. I was part of his proof. I started wondering how long he'd been planning it. Did he decide the night he asked me to move in? Was it when he started tracking my cycle to understand me better? The realization made me sick. I remember locking myself in the bathroom and crying so hard I thought I'd stop breathing. How could someone who touched me so gently be capable of something so cruel? The breaking point came when I caught him bragging to his friend on a call. He thought I was asleep. "Man, I told you, they actually wired it," he whispered, laughing. 40 grand, bro. Told them I was going to be a dad. Easy money. My heart froze. I pressed my ear closer to the door. His friend said something I couldn't hear, and Paul replied, "Relax. She won't find out. She's too emotional right now to notice anything." Too emotional? That night I realized I was sleeping next to a stranger. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there beside him, pretending to be half asleep, my mind spinning like a storm. Every little thing he'd done over the past months started replaying in my head. Every smile, every "I love you," every time he'd held my stomach and whispered about our future. It all looked different now. I wasn't his girlfriend anymore. I was his evidence, his proof to his parents that he was finally growing up. By morning, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to confront him yet. Not until I had everything. I wanted to see how far he'd go with his lies. So I started pretending too. I smiled, played along, even asked him about baby names. And the way he lit up, you'd think he was the proudest dad to be in the world. Meanwhile, behind that perfect boyfriend act, he was still burning through the money. New sneakers, a new gaming console, an expensive chain I knew he'd never afford before. Every purchase made my stomach twist. A few days later, his mom called again, this time asking if we'd chosen a hospital yet. She sounded so excited. She even offered to fly down and visit. The way Paul's face paled when I put her on speaker told me everything. He wasn't ready for her to find out the truth. "Mom," he said quickly, "we'll keep you posted, okay? Still working on arrangements." When the call ended, he turned to me, voice cold. "Why would you put her on speaker like that?" "Because she's my baby's grandmother," I shot back. He didn't say a word, just stared at me like I'd crossed some invisible line. That's when it hit me. Paul didn't see this as our child anymore. He saw it as his opportunity. That night, I checked his phone again, and what I found made my chest tighten. He'd transferred another $5,000 to a name I didn't recognize. I searched it up. It was some luxury watch store. I remember whispering to myself, this can't be happening. He was using the money faster than he could lie to cover it up. I had two options: keep pretending or expose him before his parents and everyone else became victims of his greed. But how do you expose a man who's already one step ahead? By the next week, I couldn't take it anymore. Every day felt like living in a movie where I knew the ending but still had to play along. Paul was getting bolder, throwing parties, buying expensive gadgets, even posting about family responsibilities on his Instagram. He looked like a proud dad to be online, but behind the screen, he was living a double life built on lies and stolen money. I needed proof, not just for myself, but for his parents. So, one night while he was in the shower, I went through his messages again. My hands shook as I scrolled, heart pounding so hard I could hear it. Then I found it, a chat with his best friend, Caleb. "Bro, I told you this plan would work," Paul had written. "They sent 40 grand. Gonna stretch it out till the kid's here. Then I'll fake a miscarriage story to cool things off." My stomach dropped. Fake a miscarriage story? That meant he was planning to use even my pain, my pregnancy, as part of his script. I felt my body go cold. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was cruelty. I copied every message, every receipt, every bank transfer into a folder on my phone. The next morning, I texted his mom, "Can we talk privately? It's important." She called immediately. My voice trembled as I told her everything. The fake planning, the lies, the money, the screenshots. At first, she didn't believe me. She kept saying, no, Paul wouldn't do that. But when I sent the screenshots, the call went silent. I could hear her breathing, shallow and shaky. An hour later, Paul came home, slamming the door behind him. His face was pale. "You told my mom?" he barked. "You just ruined everything." "Everything?" I snapped back. "You mean your scam?" He grabbed my wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to scare me. You don't understand. They've been controlling me my whole life. I needed to show them I could make something of myself. By lying? I said, tears burning my eyes. By using me? He didn't answer. He just sank onto the couch, running his hands through his hair, muttering, "You weren't supposed to find out like this." But why was I ever supposed to find out at all? Paul's parents showed up that evening, unannounced. His mother looked like she'd been crying for hours, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. His father, a tall man with a calm but terrifying kind of anger, walked in without a word. I stood frozen in the kitchen, clutching my phone while Paul tried to act confused, pretending he didn't know what they were talking about. His dad slammed a folder of printed screenshots onto the table, the same ones I'd sent. "Explain this," he said, his voice low but dangerous. Paul's lips parted, but no sound came out. His mom shook her head slowly, whispering, "How could you, Paul? How could you do this to her and to us?" He tried to spin another story, said I'd misunderstood, that the money was just a loan, that the messages were jokes, but it was over. The lies had run dry. When his dad said, "We're cutting you off completely," I saw something break in his eyes, the realization that his game was done. After they left, the house fell silent. Paul just sat there staring at the floor like a child caught stealing. "You ruined my life," he muttered. I took a deep breath. "No, Paul, you ruined it yourself." I packed my things that night, every shirt, every book, every memory I could carry. He didn't stop me. He didn't even look up. The next few weeks were rough. The stress, the betrayal, and the constant fear took a toll. I ended up in the hospital one night after severe cramps and bleeding, and that's when I lost the baby. I remember lying there under the fluorescent light, staring at the ceiling, thinking, he took everything, even this. When Paul showed up at the hospital the next day, I didn't let him in. His mother texted me later, apologizing over and over, saying she never imagined her son could sink that low. I told her it wasn't her fault. Some people just don't understand love unless it comes with a price tag. Months later, I moved to a new city. I got therapy, started a new job, and slowly began rebuilding myself. Sometimes I still wake up from nightmares, but they fade a little more each time. If there's one thing I learned from Paul, it's this. Love without honesty isn't love. It's just manipulation wearing a sweet disguise. The end. Please like and subscribe for more interesting stories like this. What do you think of this story? Please comment below.